Hello everyone and welcome to another Pip-Boy video. Melbourne decided to change its mind on us today and there is absolutely no rain around. And I decided to use this time to finally do a review of the CFMOTO 650NK. Now, for some of you who don't know what CFMOTO is, it wouldn't be much of a surprise. It's a Chinese-based brand, but from what I've been able to tell, they've been around since 2009 or 2010. And this is their first attempt at breaking into the big boys market. From what I've read, and you can actually sort of see it in the bike, it's basically a carbon copy of a Kawasaki ER6, which would probably make sense because the Chinese do like to copy other brands, but I'm sure they put their own spin on a lot of things as well, but just used them for inspiration. To be honest with you, when I look at this bike, it sort of makes me think of Aprilia Shiva for some reason. Could be just the red subframe, I'm not exactly sure. But basically the theme for this video will be to do a bit of a road review and then we'll pull over and have a look at it, a bit of discussion about what I like and what I don't like about it. There are things I don't like. There are things I love about this bike. But I'll try and talk through a few things while I'm riding, just about what I think about the bike. But the first thing, I'm not going to move, no. First thing I have noticed is the gear shifter is in a quite odd position. It's sort of inset from the footrest and it requires quite a bit of a throw to get it to change up. It's actually pushing the edge of my foot, and I would like to adjust it, to be honest, but I don't think it's going to help because it's got such a long throw. I think it's going to be either too far up or too far down. You might be able to fix it by changing the rear set out for something slightly different, possibly. This guy's riding my ass. That's okay, because there's no one in front of me. You looking at? No reason to tailgate, just felt like doing it. Anyway, as I was saying, the seating position on this bike is fantastic. It is a really, really well padded seat. I have no trouble sitting on this for quite a long period of time, I don't think. It feels more comfortable than the VTR, and I can sit on that for hours on end. One thing I do notice is the thermo fan on this bike runs almost constantly. Like that was just a brief stop and the fan was already running. Oh look, rain. Oh, Melbourne, I love you. But with the padded seat, obviously you do pay for that comfort. The seat height is quite high. It's probably the top end of what you would expect. I think it's 33 inches. So if you're quite short, it can be a bit awkward to sit on and get your feet flat. I don't get my feet flat, I'm about halfway. Just make sure my lens is clean because it's been raining a little bit. The engine is a 650, obviously from the name. It's a inline 2-cylinder. Not the smoothest engine, quite rough, as you can probably see in the mirrors. It's actually rougher than a V-twin. but it has a ton of power and torque. It like, I'll put it into fourth, I think we're in 3,500. Does not care. In fact, we still have acceleration. You do get quite a nice induction growl at low revs. You can hear it coming through the front end of the bike. Is everyone in a rush today? It makes me think I'm not doing the speed limit, but I am. But yes, the specifications of the bike is it's about 206 kilos. You don't feel the weight. It feels lighter than the VTR turning into corners. 57 horsepower odd, restricted, which is more than enough for a learner, I can tell you that. In fact, this bike could quite easily get you into trouble, and it is more than enough to get you through the learner's period. You would never get bored with this bike. Hopefully this guy's pulling up. Obviously, because it has such a big engine compared to most learner bikes, you don't have to change gears very often. The gears are quite tall. First gear goes out reasonably well. I haven't even hit 6th gear in this bike yet. I don't know when you'd hit 6th gear. You'd have to be on the freeway, I think. It'd be about the only time. Or unless you're being naughty, which you never do, obviously. The suspension is very good. It is it's firmer than the VTR or a couple of bikes I've sat on, or I had a bit of a ride on. It's firmer, but it's more compliant. It takes the bumps much better. It doesn't bottom out. It doesn't kick you in the arse. It's just a really, really comfortable bike to sit on. Now, I don't know how long that will last, if the suspension will start to give out after a while, well, an abnormally short amount of time, but to be honest, it feels very good, and looking at the suspension components, it doesn't look that bad. Obviously, there's no brand names on anything, but it doesn't mean it's not going to do the job. There's one thing I've learned with the Chinese: they can actually make some good stuff if they put their mind to it. Just give my lens a clean again. The exhaust on the bike is pretty horrid. There's already aftermarket systems for it. When this bike was purchased, there was an option for a Demon slip-on, which I'll probably get to try out in a couple of weeks once it goes on. The bike, the motor, its revving is not very smooth or clean. It's a bit agricultural, to be honest. It's, yeah, like as I was saying before, it's a bit rough, but once it's up in the rev range, it does clean up a bit. In first gear, just off the line, it is a bit snatchy, and the engine braking is quite strong, being such a big motor. So negotiating little corners, you've got to ride the clutch a bit. I don't know if the throttle's going to loosen up a little bit on it, but there's not much. It's sort of just on and off in that start section. Because it's got so much power and torque, it just wants to get going. But the power's just crazy. You'd have no problems getting past any car. It's just there, it's instantaneous, there's torque from nothing, and plenty of power up high. You'd think cars would know to merge before they come up to the park cars. He's too busy driving with one arm. Stay. Yeah, probably the most satisfying thing about this engine is the low speed torque, a low RPM torque should I say. It's just, you know, you're just cruising around at 4,000. It's comfortable, not too rattly. You want to get past someone, you just little nudge and you're in front. That's all there is to it. The VTR on the other hand, got to drop 2 gears and wring the tits off it. Just trying to get used to these gear changes because it's a bit, the shifter is really weird. As I was saying, I think the footrest could do with just moving a bit closer to the actual shift lever, because the gearbox is actually pretty far forward on the engine. So obviously, because the distance between the two, they've got quite a long shift lever on it. And because it's so long, obviously it requires more angle to change up. And you do sometimes find if you don't give it a good shove in first, it'll find neutral on you. The controls, clutch is great. Nice and tight, smooth, progressive. Front brake is very good also. It was a bit vague to start with. Like the lever's nice and firm, but it was a bit, there wasn't much bite on the application, but the rotors seem to have bedded in now. Maybe there was just a bit of grease on them or something. But yeah, it's definitely got decent stopping power. It's you just got to be careful, you know, if this is your first bike, not to grab the brake too hard, because it's dual rotor, twin piston caliper on each side, I believe, so it will bite if you really grab it. The indicator's a little bit it's a bit hard to cancel sometimes, but there's never anyone near you to watch you do that. It's just got so much power. Oh boy. It really is a fun bike. I really like it, to be honest. I mean, obviously there's always going to be the questions, how long will it last? How good, you know, is the build quality? I mean, I can see the paint on these bars is going to chip off pretty quickly because it's just like a spray paint, to be honest. It's not anodized or anything like that. It's not chromed. It's just like a, yeah, it's just like spray paint. Probably the other thing that I find a bit disappointing on this bike is the dash cluster. It's a very, it's like a $5 special, to be honest. It really lets the rest of the bike down, I think. The speed is very hard to see. Because it's so recessed into the housing, you get like a shadow overcast from the sun on top of it. As you can probably see now, it's like, you can only see about 25% of it. I mean, you can still see it, it's just not really well lit up. It just doesn't look that nice. I mean, they probably could have done a bit better on that. I think the next model, they'll probably do a revision and they'll improve that quite considerably. Give it a bit of power. You do really need to lean forward on it because it's got a lot of power and you can feel the front end go pretty light. The weather cannot make its mind up today. Bit of rain, bit of sun, bit of cloud, a bit more rain. Oh, yeah. What else is there to talk about? The mirrors, yeah, they work. Plastic, obviously. But they do the job. I'm used to VTR, everything's chromed on it, metal, good quality. Feels like it would survive a nuclear fallout. This bike holds speed really well also, just keep the throttle smooth. It's not too, you know, you don't have to modulate it much, you know, the throttle's not that sensitive. Once it's moving, it just sort of cruises. I don't know if the speedo's really far out on this bike, but everyone's overtaking me and I'm sitting on 80 plus tax. So I'd be curious to know if the speedo is very accurate on this. Either that or everyone's just speeding today, but being a Sunday, usually it's just idiots everywhere. Sitting 20 under the speed limit, so I'm quite surprised. There's that shifter again. Very hard to get a smooth shift out of it. Because the amount of time that you spend just pushing it up, it's quite a bit longer. I know it sounds odd, but you know, we'll have a look down here, I think. Engine braking is good. Don't even need the brake, this is just rolling. Save your brake pads. The OEM tyres on this bike don't really have a brand name, so I don't know if you'd want to change those out, but you know, they feel pretty soft and I'm not getting any issues with confidence on the bike. I've ridden it in the wet a bit and it's alright. The tyres aren't really moving around at all, even when you give it a bit of a kick. So I think they do the job to get you started. I just filled this bike up before as well, before we started doing this video. The fuel gauge is not very realistic. Though I did get 10 bucks of fuel in it, but it was only reading 2 bars and it looked like it had half a tank left. So yeah, that's pretty standard on most bikes. But I wouldn't be relying on it. Just look, open the fuel cap and look. You'll know how much fuel's in it just by looking at the damn thing. Ooh, roundabout. That indicator is just it's the cancelling function on it and the move left to right. It's quite easy to knock it to the left while you're cancelling it and turning on your other indicator. It's not very firm, it's very loose. What else is there? Oh, so much to talk about on a bike that you just forget about everything. Well, we can talk about the looks of it. Yeah, I love the looks of it. It looks fantastic. Except it's got a giant CFMOTO on the side of it. If you took that off, people would probably think it's a much more expensive bike than it is. Not that anyone knows what a CFMOTO is anyway. That was a nice matte grey R1. Oh, traffic. I think we'll go right. I don't want to wait in traffic. Be a bit bitey. Yeah, hills are probably the only trouble I have with this, like the seat height. My foot is on its tippy toes at the moment. Not really a problem, but it doesn't give you much confidence. Hey, turn the indicator off. Bit of power? Why not? So, is this the right learner's bike for you? Well, if you like power a lot, like you just can't you can't have a bike without it, then it's got enough. You'll not get bored of it within your restrictions period. But at the same time, I think you can get into trouble with it quite easily. I mean, if you have a bit of a scary moment and grab a bit too much throttle, this bike will just rip your arms off if you're not ready for it. God, I make it sound like a super sport bike or something, but it's not. It's a very comfortable, go off indicator, very comfortable, relaxed bike to ride as well. You just have to be gentle with those controls. It won't forgive you if you make a mistake. So with 250 you have those liberties because it doesn't have enough power to do that. But this is like, it just wants to go. There's that first gear snatch, it just, like that. And the fans are running flat out already, I can feel that. Heating my legs up. It's a cold day and I'm getting hot. Do you like a dirty granny? I love that ad. What are we doing here? I don't even know why I came in here, just to get knocked over by a car. It's probably not a good idea because it's not my bike, but hey, low speed maneuverability. We'll call it that, eh? First gear is fine for this sort of stuff. It's long enough that you don't need to worry about it. I mean, you might want second if you don't want it to pull back on you so much. When you engine brake, it's just a bit edgy. But at the same time, if you're nice and sensitive with it, it's fine. Bit of a clunk from the front end on those speed humps. Don't know what that is. Could be just a spring. Ooh, we'll go in here, do a bit of testing. There it is again. Go. Oh, I'm gonna put my foot down. I had to put my foot down. Ugh. They call this Mini Chapel Street. Could you guess why? Yes, check out the bike. It's Chinese. Check it out. And it's over. We're out of here. Oh, my legs are getting hot. This fan is not turned off the whole time. And we're going left. Alright, we'll go find someone to pull over now and we'll have a look at the bike and I'll point out a few things on it. Let's see if I can get through here without not getting knocked over. Green light means go. Yeah, I don't know how this bike would go in like a 30-degree day. I reckon you're going to get pretty hot on it. In contrast to the VTR, I know I keep using the VTR as a comparison, but that's what I ride. The fan rarely ever comes on with that bike. In fact, it's pretty cool most of the time. I rarely ever feel engine heat off it, even on a hot day. That was a hill start, no rear brake, just clutch is nice and predictable. Yeah. Oh, I hate that rev range there. It's just really rough. And don't run up my ass. No foot down. Alright, let's go pull over in here somewhere. I don't know where we're going, but there'll be something. Just give it a bit of dart in. Oh yes, just turns. That induction growl is really nice. Takeaway. Now open. Oh, look at the road. GoPro is still recording. We're doing well today. I'm in a good mood. Alright, let's stop here. Get me feet. Yeah. Okay, so that was the ride at the CFMOTO. As you can see in white, it looks fantastic. I don't like the black at all. It's a great looking bike. Oh, I just realised I left the L plate on. No, well, doesn't matter. So you see, subframe's red. You can already see some marks, like imperfections in the subframe. It's not really well finished off, which is a shame, but I guess you can't ask for too much at the price point this thing's at. Comes factory standard with rim tape, which is surprising. You can already see there's marks in the rim, and this is out of the box. So if you, like, it's not a big thing, but this is what I was talking about in the other blog. There's marks everywhere. Don't know if they're shipping marks or if they were just a bit rough unboxing it, or... Then you got your twin piston calipers. I'm not sure what size these rotors are. They look 280mm maybe. And I like the little features like day running lights on the front. See that? The weird thing is you can actually turn off the headlights on this. Personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should always be on, but you can have just your daylights if you want. Fans running again. Yes, overall, very good bike. I'm gonna open my helmet for a minute, it's getting a bit hot. I'll turn it off for a second. Peace and quiet. So, how would I summarise this bike? Well, it's cheap. Its build quality is acceptable. Like I said, there's people who have been riding them for quite a while already and they haven't had any issues. There were a few electrical problems when they first started, but that seems to be resolved now. This bike's been fine straight out of the box. There's been no issues with it yet. Any bike can have issues. It's nothing related to CFMOTO, but there are little things that are interesting, like, these connectors are exposed. They're heat shrunk and they've got a cover over them, but it's a bit... Would have expected them to be in a sealed connector that is waterproof. But yes, it's got a lot of power, so if that's what you're looking for in a learner's bike, then this thing will definitely deliver, but I would personally suggest that you ride something a bit smaller to start with, at least for a couple of weeks, just to get your grounding in place. Otherwise, it can catch you out. Just remember, it's a heavy bike as well, so if you drop it, you've got to be able to pick it up again. I mean, 206, that's, that's bordering on the That's heavier than some big bikes. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this review of the CFMOTO 650NK.